How's it going, everybody? So this video is going to be a little bit different. If you didn't notice already, I'm actually not in game. I went over to the Summoner's War Codex, and we're actually going to be going through each beneficial effect, and in the next episode we'll go through each harmful effect. Now, the only reason I'm splitting it into two parts is because it takes so long. I actually did this already, and you know what? The video file got corrupted. It was 40 minutes long. Yeah, I gotta redo this episode. So let's go through it again. I'm going to go as fast as I can, but spit out as much relevant information as possible so you guys can get a good idea of what each buff does. And I'll talk to you about which buffs you will not see in the game and which ones you will see in the game, because some of them have been removed, other ones just not used, and then some of them you'll probably never see in your lifetime because you just never really see it unless you really search for it. So here we go. And also, a quick note, I will leave the link in the description to the Summoner's War Codex with all of these beneficial and harmful effects. So if you want to go check that out, check it out. Alright, let's get started. So, the first one is going to be Revenge. Now, this is the exact same type of buff as Counterattack. So, basically, it just means you're going to retaliate and attack the monster whenever you're attacked. So, okay, so the Revenge one is actually when an ally is struck. So, it's like the Yeti. The Yeti applies, I think, this kind of buff. This is the light Yeti, I should say. Ugh. The light Yeti is the one that counterattacks with the Revenge because it's a 50% chance. I think that's the only one that actually uses the Revenge one. Everything else uses the counterattack because it's when you're attacked. Because the counterattack is when you're attacked and you attack back with the first skill, if that makes sense. So if, let's say, you get hit with this type of buff on you, which is mostly self-applied. I don't know any type of skill that applies this to your team or any other monster. I think it's just to you, like martial cats, yetis, and stuff like that. Basically, you're going to attack back and hit them with your first skill, which is really nice, especially if you have some type of debuff or stun or something like that to apply to them, and you're going to deal damage back to them. And that's really nice, especially, if you're trying to absorb the damage, especially like, the Dark Martial Cat that can attack back on its passive, because it is, in fact, dark, attribute. It can absorb all the light damage while dealing damage back to it. So that's kind of the idea. You're kind of using it to target the enemies so that you can attack back and kind of, help yourself not get, targeted a lot, especially if you're on defense. No one wants to target a monster that attacks back. But yeah, regardless, you probably won't see this as much or use it as much. It's really not as big of a deal as the other ones. So let's go to the other ones. So increase attack power. So this is going to basically increase the damage and effect of your skills that scale with attack power by 50%. So this just means it's going to increase your attack power so you can hit harder. That's basically what it is. Increase the attack. So whenever you say see ATK, that just means your attack power. So that's really nice. You actually get this buff really early on from Saik. Saik is really good. And he also applies it with increasing the crit rate, which is exactly what it says. So crit rate and critical damage are basically bonus damage type stuff. So if you hit a critical hit, you're going to deal the amount of bonus damage, that the critical damage that you have, that's going to be applied as bonus damage. So say you have 200% critical damage, that's going to be in proportion to your attack power on how much you hit, and then you can hit 200% more based on the critical damage, and etc. It's really, really nice. I actually really like it, especially because the increasing the critical rate allows you to have a lot more wiggle room. So say you have like 80% crit, you use this crit buff and you're up to 100%. Now your monsters are all going to crit and deal more damage. Alright, so having your attack power and your crit rate buffed up, it's actually really, really nice to have to deal more damage, like Doublelution teams and stuff like that. But for early on, it'll just basically help you hit better damage, especially because lower level players can't really get that much crit. This next one you will probably never see that much. It's called Blessed. So the only monster that I can think of that is lower than a 4 or 5 star that applies this is Michelle. Michelle revives and then applies this to heal you back up. It's 15% per turn, usually for 3 turns. And who else applies this? The Water Archangel, Ariel. Ariel applies this on the group heal type thing. So this is pretty nice. Mostly it's mostly 5-star monsters that apply this, like the Light Oracle, the Water Archangel, stuff like that. Even Vanessa applies it, the the Fire Valkyrie. You know what? you guys probably shouldn't worry about it too much. It's really not the best form of heal, and even if you do get it, it's just some kind of extra thing to have, and the monsters that do apply it are really high tier, and you probably won't ever see them. But if you do, definitely take advantage of it. This next one, they call it brand. I like to call it the shield effect. So this is a shield technically, but it's not the same as Rena shield, which we will go into later. So basically absorbs a certain amount of damage based on the max HP of the monster that has the runes, the shield runes, because this actually does come from shields. So when you have those shield runes, it'll take the max HP and it will convert it into a shield. You'll still have your max HP, it's not going to take it away from you, but it generates a shield for your entire team, even if only one monster has the runes, and it will protect you based on that max HP. So if you have a really strong monster and then the rest of your monsters are kind of lower level, especially in dungeons, having this to protect them on the first wave of attacks can really make a difference. It really just depends on your team, especially if you're doing dungeon runs or if you're going to be doing it in arena. If you want to, bring a YOLO team and just protect them on that first turn, because that first turn is pretty critical. This is a good thing to pair up with immunity, which we will talk about later. Don't worry. But that, just keep in mind, this is a good thing to pair with immunity. Alright, Endure. Endure is actually one that players do see because of Theomars, the water Ifrit. It's actually self-applied, and basically what it does, it means it will prevent your HP from dropping to 0. So you will be stuck at 1 HP, okay? That's why Theomars is so good. When you hit him and it's about to kill him, it activates his passive, which puts on an Endure effect, which prevents him from being killed unless you remove that or, block beneficial effects so it can't put itself on it, or if you, stop his passive, it'll just put that on there and you have to wait a turn for it to go away. So it just depends on how many turns it's put on there for, but as long as that buff is up there, he cannot die. The monster that has his buff cannot die. So imagine putting this on Ramagos and his HP goes all the way down to 1, just 1, and you can't kill him, and he clean shots. That's going to be a lot of damage. On my Ramagos, it'd be about 40,000 damage. So you know what? It's not that bad of a buff. I think you just need to know how to use it, especially you got to be careful because as soon as that comes off, you got to be ready to heal. Otherwise, just one little love tap, boop, and you're dead. So this next one is exclusive to the beast monks right now, to 2 of them. So basically it's a hug effect. It's kind of like Invincibility, more or less. But the monster that applies it will be receiving half the damage that the monster that has the buff would originally receive. So say I have a light Inagami here and a beast monk here. The light Inagami is about to die, and I apply a hug effect onto the Inagami. Then any damage that the Inagami receives, it's going to be cut in half and then transferred to the Beast Monk. So you don't ever usually see this, but on offense against all those people that have the Nat 5s that are so lucky, you will see it, so just be prepared for that. It's best just to ignore it. Don't try to deal half the damage to the Beast Monk. It's really going to be annoying, and they're just going to heal back, and yeah, it's just a big mess. So we went over crit rate buff. The next thing is increasing crit protection. So basically this reduces by 50% the critical rate chance of the enemy attacking you if you have this buff on you. The only monsters that I have ever come across that use this are Kabila, the light harpy, who's pretty good, and the wind sylphid, Acasis. So it's basically a team effect usually, and it will reduce by 50%. So say you have all those Vertihills that are attacking you, you could use a Casus to plop that on and reduce the crit chance that they have on you by 50%. So keep that in mind. That actually might help you. Now it doesn't actually land a glancing hit, so they can still land debuffs. Just keep that in mind. It just means that they might not crit by 50% chance. It reduces it. All right. The next one is super important for Trial of Ascension and PvE content. All right. This is increasing the defense buff. Alright, so this just means it's going to increase your total defense by 50%, and it's really going to make your units stronger because defense reduces the damage dealt. Alright, so when you have monsters in Trial of Ascension that are hitting, like 40, 50,000 on an AoE attack. In case you guys don't know, AoE means area of effect, so basically just means like attacking all units, every single unit. Well, the thing is, when they deal that much damage, the only thing you can really do is reduce their damage with a debuff that we will talk about in the next episode, or reduce the damage with a buff, which is a lot easier to maintain because you just apply it to yourself. It's 100% chance to apply it you never have to worry about it being resisted. And basically resistance means that the monster just says no and just stops you from applying it to them for the debuff. So increasing your defense is a lot easier method of actually preventing more damage, and it reduces the damage. So just keep that in mind whenever you're facing a stage that deals too much damage. And usually these types of units are not farmable, but I'm sure if you do find one, definitely use it. It's really useful, especially in Trial of Ascension hard mode and Trial of Ascension normal mode. Next one is really widely used. Oh man, I love it. Alright, so increasing the attack speed basically means your attack bar will move faster. And the faster the attack bar moves, the more attacks you get, and bam, you can kill your enemy faster. So it increases by 33% of the total speed, and that just means your attack bar is going to move 33% faster. That's really nice. I honestly like that. I really like that, especially on a speed team with everyone over 200 speed. That can be really annoying. And the Wind Griffin, which is farmable, which I did in my FarmerPhil series, that one is really good because it increases the attack bar by 30%, gives you that head start, and increases your attack speed by 33%. Oh man, that can really make the difference between winning and losing, especially on a speed team. Next one, Invincibility. This is basically a better version of Endure for units that will not be scaling off, HP lost like Ramagos. So Invincibility just nullifies all the damage to 0, and it just lasts for however long you have the Invincibility on you. Honestly, this is one of the better beneficial effects in the game. So the main monster that applies this is Chloe. It protects you for 1 turn from all damage, and usually people make her super speedy, so she applies it at the very beginning of the round, so it can allow your team to survive for at least that first round, especially against speed teams, because no one has the time to make every single unit really fast, not until you're really far in the game. So having a Chloe, the fire Epicam Priest, apply this to your entire team to protect you for 1 turn makes a difference in arena. It can be really annoying, and it helps stall too, but that's just something that you'll see later on in the game. The light fairy actually applies 2 turns single target of this, so if you need that, you can do that, kind of put it on some monster that's absorbing all the damage, like on a stage that only has 1 type of attribute. They're only going to attack the attribute that gives them attribute advantage, so you put that unit in there, and then you can throw 2 turns Invincibility and just let them absorb all the damage, and it just reduces it to 0, so that's really nice. Next one is Immunity. Oh, immunity. So important. You guys have no idea. Immunity basically just makes you completely safe from any harmful effects. None of those debuffs will be applied to you. The only way you can apply them now is, in fact, if you remove the immunity, and that includes despair stuns. You will, in fact, resist against despair stuns, which you cannot resist at all if you do not have immunity. They are applied no matter what if the despair proc activates, and that just means that the despair stun, the RNG actually decides to activate the stun, which is a 25% chance. Okay, there's no resistance involved. And immunity is really important in the game, especially when you get to stages in Trial of Ascension Hard that apply bombs and stuff like that. Well, it's also important in Arena because a lot of Arena teams will apply stuns, and PvE content, especially in like Dragons B10, it's really tough without immunity or some type of buff removal like Veramos. A lot of people don't get Veramos until later on in the game. So immunity is something that you really want to have, alright? Protect the Soul is actually one of the next ones. It's basically the same thing, same icon, as immunity, but it has a white cross in it. And basically this is just, it just means that if the monster dies with this beneficial effect on them, they will automatically revive. Only 2 monsters I can think of that have this is Nigong. I think I'm murdering the actual pronunciation of that, which is the Light Pioneer, which probably none of you are going to get, let's be honest. You guys are not Scat Fetish. And the actually the Light Mystic Witch too, and the Water Undyne. Okay, the Water Undyne actually applies it too, but only on herself. So it just means that if you die with this beneficial effect, you're going to automatically revive. I believe it's 30% HP. It's okay, but not that big of a deal. It's really not something you should be worrying about. You probably will never see it, and a lot of players probably have never seen it either. Next one is something that no one really ever sees, which is reflecting damage. It receives the damage and reflects 33% of the damage back to the enemy. First one that comes off to the top of my head is the Water Yeti. The Water Yeti applies this and reflects the damage. The Fire Serpent, I think, also does this. Again, not that big of a deal. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. You guys probably shouldn't worry about it too much. And then lastly, for the beneficial effects, we have the shield effect. Oh. This was the nightmare of beginner level players. Alright, and I think it still is. Rena, the Water Epicyon Priest, tears up at very, very low level for beginner players. And the reason is because it absorbs damage, and her passive allows her to apply it every turn. So, or sorry, not every turn, but every time she receives a critical hit. So, you know, it just depends what the shield is scaled from. Some of them are scaled from level, like Acasis. Other times they're scaled from the max HP, which is like Rena or stuff like that. Sometimes they're even scaled from attack power or the damage dealt, like the Light Neostone Fighter. So it really just depends on what they're actually going to be scaled from, and it actually does absorb the damage from continuous damage and bombs. So if you apply the shield effect, it will absorb damage from bombs. So this is something to really, really look out for, especially when you come across Rena teams. So if you guys are just starting out, I'm telling you, the Water Epicyon Priest, it's going to become a nightmare for you pretty soon. The way you counter it, I'm just going to tell you now, is you bring a healer. Just bring a healer and some type of nuker and just keep trying. Worst comes to worst, you just hit a draw because she can't do any damage. As long as you bring a healer, you'll be okay. Alright, so that's really the only beneficial effects that there are. There's a lot more debuffs. Actually, there's more beneficial effects. Alright, well, we'll do that in the next episode because it's already getting pretty long. Yeah, very long. Alright, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will send out the next part really soon, as soon as possible, probably tomorrow. But this was supposed to be uploaded like 2 days ago, and my video file got corrupted, so I have to redo this. But if you want the link to this page, just look in the description below. If you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. Let me know that you liked the video, and leave me some ideas for some FarmerPhil series on what you guys want to see, on some advice and whatnot. I'd love to see your guys' opinions. You know, I do listen to them, and I do actually follow through with them too. So leave down in the comment section below. Alright guys, I will see you in the next episode, and stay tuned for part 2 that's going to be coming out next. See you guys.